My name is Brenda Stokely, and I'm one of the co-chairs for Brooklyn Coalition that got formed with many of the people sitting in this room almost, in 2016. And we got formed because we realized that there were people sitting behind closed doors writing up a document that they expected us to sign and pay for without any involvement with us. And they were also trying to paint a picture, a very dire picture of the people who live and manage HDFCs. This is not a new tactic of wealthy people who want to serve other wealthy people. There was Seneca Village in Central Park that used to be inhabited by Black people, by Native people, by some poor Irish people. They had homes, they had schools, they had businesses. But when they wanted to take that land from them, they started casting aspersions against them and doing all types of things to really undermine them and justify why they would take that land away from them. So there's a long history of doing that, not just in New York, but you ask the Native Americans since some people from Europe got here, right? So this is what we're dealing with, is a new form of it. It's a new angle, but it's the same old story. And we can stop it, because when we started organizing and when we got some support from some of the elected officials and started advertising what they were doing, then they had to put their regulatory agreement on hold, right? Because we exposed it. So one of the letters you have is the letter that was signed by several Manhattan City Council members at the request of shareholders. They didn't just wake up and say, oh, let me do something nice for the people that live in HDFCs. They were pressured by other people who lived in HDFCs to do that in Manhattan. Brooklyn has fallen far short of that, with the exception of Inez Barron and Charles Barron, who has worked with, and one woman is here with a building that they've worked with, and we're going to talk about how you can gather that kind of support if you are in foreclosure. So now they put out a foreclosure list. And what has that done? That makes banks and other credit unions and stuff say they're not going to give anybody a mortgage. So part of that is also what they do to us anyway. If we're people of color, there's such a thing as redlining, and it's not a figment of the imagination. They actually drew a line, a red line, around the area where most of us lived and said, we're not giving them nothing. If they want to buy a house, property, or business, they're not getting money. You say you want to get a Cadillac, they would give you some money, but not for something like that. So they're still redlining, and they're still discriminating against people in terms of getting, but this adds to that. Is another obstacle that we also, so it's very important, whether you're being foreclosed on or not, that we all stick together and fight together to stop this, right? So we're not just talking about this because it's an interesting topic. We are gathering people together to know what's going on so that we can be inspired to fight together in unity to stop this from happening. Because anything that we don't like, if we do organize, we are able to stop it. Okay, so this is the purpose of this particular meeting today. I'm just going to give you the overview of our sense when we saw it. And those of us who are sitting here were in those meetings, Mamie and some of the other people. The main sense we got was that you were not, if you had a board, which you should have, you would not be able to make any decisions yourself. A manager would be hired that you would pay for. They would be selected by HPD. You would not have any say-so about that. The manager and another person called a monitor would be the ones who would actually run your building. They don't live in the building. They probably don't look like nobody in this room. They don't even live in the community unless they're one of the gentrifiers. So they would be the ones on this list who would be selected to, you would be a rubber stamp board. They would decide all your financial decisions and who you hire and everything else, what the rents are going to be, what the maintenance is going to be, etc. So that's essentially, there's a lot of details in there about, but those were the things that really raised people's concerns up. And so we voiced that every place we could go. And there were meetings in Manhattan, there were meetings in the Bronx, there's meetings in Brooklyn, and there are meetings all around the city dealing with this. I think Queens only has one HDFC and Staten Island has none. So the ones that are going to be hardest hit, especially with the foreclosure, is going to be the Bronx, the South Bronx, It's going to be Harlem, and it's going to be Brooklyn. So basically, the other aspect of this is that all of our buildings are old. All of them are in gentrified areas or on the cusp of them, and they want those buildings back. So that's why we call it a land grab, okay? That is their intention, and it's not a new intention then, as I said. All you have to do is speak to your sisters and brothers who no longer have any land because they were Native Americans. So they came and they took the land, and that's what they're trying to do here. So we have to band together to say, no, you're not taking away our homes. We're not intellectualizing about this. All of us sitting here live in the HDFCs, and we will lose our homes. Those who recently bought an HDFC and has a mortgage, they would, when they send it to a third party who's going to be a wealthy person or an organization that they like, they're going to then turn it into rentals. And you will no longer be owners, okay? And you will be paying rent, and if you have a mortgage, what you're going to do with a mortgage for something that you don't own anymore? So none of these thoughts, or they were thoughtless, didn't come into their reflect in their papers that they wrote, right? So Sam is right in terms of reading about their thoughts, but their thoughts are also concrete in their actions. So they don't just talk, they put things in place, and because they work for the city, they're able to do that. We have confronted the mayor. The mayor didn't even know that their HPD, his own agency, that there was staff, top level staff, developing a foreclosure list. And when he found out, he instructed that person to stop, but she did not. She's the deputy, her name is Anne Marie, she's the deputy commissioner. We confronted her again at another town hall meeting that was held here in Brooklyn. Again, he said to her what she was supposed to do. And what we also got a report back on is that she is trying to sneakily, because if you look at the list for foreclosures, there's a check-off list of things that you have to do to get off the foreclosure list. So one of the things that Anne Marie has been sneakily trying to do is to get people to sign the regulatory agreement that the commissioner said we're not dealing with that regulatory agreement anymore because nobody was part of it. So what I've heard from people that went down with their documents, that Anne Marie, on the sheet, it says you must sign a regulatory agreement. And I asked her myself, are you using the one that everybody said no? Oh no, I'm not doing that. But then we get feedback from other people that that is what she's doing. So we have to stay, like in anything, if you don't know your rights, people can step on you. If you don't know how to use your rights, people will step on you. If you don't organize, people will step on you. So we have to organize, we have to be smart, we have to get information, we have to share it with other people, and we have to inspire other people to come and be involved.
I didn't come to talk officially to everyone here on this capacity. I actually came here to learn because one of my HDFCs in our district is actually going through a foreclosure process as well. And we're really bogged down in the office, especially that we just got out of campaign season.
Yes.
Right? To deal with the foreclosure process, and the president of the HDFC asked me, hey, is there someone I can ask for assistance with to meet all of the checklists to qualify for the Article 11? So that's just one, and this is an HDFC that doesn't have a management company, right? So they're doing everything on their own, and the board is really small. And so this is just one issue that we're facing with one of our HDFCs. There's other HDFCs that are well managed, right? And the regulatory agreement will fall short for them, right? They don't need to give up their self-autonomy, right? They don't need to give up their ability to control their decision-making on their own property, right? With a monitor and a manager. And the regulatory agreement falls short for those HDFCs. For others, that might be mismanaged, right? And there might be some corruption for some, right? That the regulatory agreement might work for those, right? But we need to create a line of division where for those players that are doing great and those homeowners that have been doing good for a long time, and back to the 80s to the 70s, before gentrification came, that they can be maintained in their homes. And for other players, that there can be an agreement where the government can step in and make things right, and maybe eventually they'll take the bull by their horns, all right? That's what we want to see in our office. But I also came here to learn and grab a lot of information and to hear what you guys think as well.
Originally, when the HDFCs were formed, those of you who have been around from the very beginning, you know that they were formed because the landlords, the private landlords, abandoned the buildings, abandoned the services, and abandoned the tenants. So the tenants took it upon themselves to save the building. And the goal was to train people, assist them, because none of us were building managers or anything like that, so that they could self-manage. Now all of a sudden that's a dirty word to HPD, that we should even think that we should self-manage, when people have been doing it for 20, 30 plus years. So that's something that that's another concept that they're putting out there that we can't manage. There are some people, for a lot of reasons, are not doing things the way people expect them to do, but they're not always because they're corrupt. If you started a long time ago and most of the board members became 80, 90 years old, they no longer could be on the board and function the way they used to function, or they died. There's one building near us where all of the shareholders, all of the board members died, and one is a nursing home, and there's only one person left. So did these people purposely say, oh, we don't want to have a board, or due to the circumstances? So one of the things that can happen, as you said, it should be something that's appropriate for everybody and that really saves the buildings, saves the ownership, and shores it up and gets the resources that they need. That's our viewpoint. And that can happen. There's a lot of money in this city, and a lot of money. You see the buildings going up every 5 seconds, and none of them we could live in. So we need to save our homes. And the best way we could do is to try to fight for the autonomy and the respect, self-determination, and also for the resources. To me, it's reparations that we are supposed to get so that we can live decently. We're not begging for anything. We're demanding that we get the things that we need to live.
Yes.
Okay? And so, so we have been fighting back. We're calling for a moratorium on foreclosures. That's the campaign that we're trying to do now, and that we want people to try. Whether you're being foreclosed on or not, we need to band together with those who are. And so that's what we're fighting for, and just some of the things he said in terms of looking at it appropriately. Because if someone is doing something criminal, you should have gone to the DA. You should have gone to the Attorney General's office and told them with facts that somebody's absconding with the money or doing whatever. Don't turn a blind eye, which is what HPD did, and you have, and then come back later and say, oh, we're taking the building back because there's corruption. Where were you all this time? Because you're supposed to be doing training. You're supposed to be doing all kinds of things that a lot of them did not do.
And be mindful of UHAB. I like UHAB. I'm not going to say anything negative about UHAB. UHAB is no longer a training and technical company. UHAB is now a developer. Just on his website, it says UHAB is neither a landlord nor a management company. All management and ownership by UHAB is temporary. The property is conveyed to the builder's new shareholders when construction and paperwork is complete. They're bankers. They're loaning money. They're landlords. And they got out of the business so that they could become these things. They're insurance sales folk. So just keep, if you have some dealings with them, they're willing to train you. But just keep in mind, that if your building go up, they have the option to bid on it and acquire it.
Glory.
I'm sorry.
And Glory used to work at HPD.
Okay.
So maybe we can, if you don't mind.
I'm not a bad guy. I used to work for HPD, but I'm not a bad guy.
No, she's not. She's okay. So maybe she can answer your question.
If you don't mind, I don't like microphones. I like to shout, especially when we have a good cause that we have to support. And my name is Gloria Ann Hussey-Kirstein, and I'm an HDFC shareholder in Manhattan. Lived in my building for 35 years, back during the crack games. all right? So we all remember what it was like in our buildings back then. I'm here with my comrade Blanca Vasquez, is also an HDFC shareholder, a block away from where I live on the Upper West Side, Manhattan Valley. So we just came from a meeting, I'm just gonna get to you in a minute, but I just want you to know, we just came from a meeting with Councilmember Bill Perkins of Central Harlem, who thankfully won the primary. He's in the corner of HDFCs, and we've approached him with a resolution we want City Council to adopt to stop foreclosures. If you don't mind, a show of hands, anybody here that wants foreclosures?
I don't know, my Brenda Street.
Okay, I have the list, so I can tell you if you're on the list. But for those of you who do have a foreclosure issue, okay, we want City Council to put a stop to HPD sending that list of foreclosure properties. They have 84 foreclosure properties that are HDFCs with 2,000 shareholder apartments. 2,000 shareholders are gonna lose their homes. HPD sending it next week to the law department for a judgment of foreclosure. And then you get 4 months to pay up everything in full, including horrible interest rates. So we're trying for that, but that's kind of like what they call it, the Hail Mary pass in football. There's this, I'm part of the HDFC Coalition, which is, we're partners with the Brooklyn HDFC Coalition. Blanca and I are part of the HDFC Coalition, which actually was formed about 20 years ago to deal with issues trying to protect the HDFC community. Then we really got roiling a year ago when this regulatory agreement came out where they're going to take away our tax abatement and all that. Then the foreclosure issue. We finally got a list from HPD in July for these 84 properties. So we're trying. So anyone here who is facing a foreclosure issue, and young lady, unfortunately, it looks like your building is as well. I have a couple of things to tell you. First of all, if you are in arrears on your property taxes, go to Department of Finance if you start repayment and enter into an agreement with the Department of Finance and keep up with your payments. HPD will take, you'll still be in the foreclosure process, but HPD will take you off the list that's going to the law department in a week for a judgment. And that's good news, because once you have a judgment of foreclosure, it's hard to sell apartments, it's hard to get financing, and it's a slippery slope to failure. Unfortunately, a lot of HDFCs have this issue where you have a takeover person or team, and often it's a family. They take over, they get the checkbook, they get the bank statements, they don't share anything with shareholders, they start giving vacancies to family members, and then the whole thing starts going down. We are advocating for what's called an Article 11 tax forgiveness application. This is an application that anyone who's behind in their taxes can apply to HPD for, but the requirements are like this. 100% income verification for everyone in your building, 2-year audit, a 5-year budget. Not a bad idea to have these things on hand anyway. We have a gem of a person, Victor Morissette, who lived in HDFC growing up as a boy, went to City College. He's an expert tax and business person who's just joined with us a week ago, and he dedicates the resources of his company to try to finish this Article 11 application for free. He has accountants working on it, paralegals working on it, and he has joined with the coalition to provide services for free for anyone who's facing foreclosure and wants forgiveness of their property tax. And if you get an Article 11 forgiveness of your property tax, you can get back on track to paying down anything else you owe for water bills or whatever. So we are also, when we met with Perkins, and he's not the last council member we're meeting with, we also are going to be combining forces with the Brooklyn HDFC Coalition and your council members to also push back the deadline for the Article 11 application, because the deadline was Friday. And we said that's not enough time. It's a very, very big list of requirements. But Victor has, a whole methodology for doing this. So the Article 11 is doable. It looks daunting, but it's a way to forgive your taxes and get yourself back on the road to financial health. So I just wanted to tell you about those two things, plus the political aspect of council member support. I'm going to be giving, if we've been kind of working together. I went to her press conference, she went to our City Hall rally in June, and so we're trying to combine citywide to fight against the foreclosures.
Okay, Ms. Francis lives at 721 Van Sicklen, and she and her other shareholders have been meeting with Councilman Barron, and Inez been coming to the meetings too, and her staff, and also with the neighborhood housing services, and also with the legal services. So we want her to give just a synopsis of what's going on and where you are now in terms of fighting for your building. And she also came to the rally that we had, the week or so ago.
We have been losing our building at 721 Van Sicklin Avenue. And when I realized that the building was losing, and I called upon all the members and shareholders, they did not care about it. So it just take only one of you guys to run to save it, and that's what I did. I take this, somebody on the street gave me a paper, said we was going into foreclosure. And I said, what? And I make copy and I paste it all over the building. The people them did not care. So I said, it's okay. I'm gonna get somebody care. And I take that paper and I go to INS Barron and Charles Barron office. I call Letitia James in Manhattan and I call Akeem Jeffrey office in Canarsie. I said, we need help. We're losing our home. Somebody got to help us to save our home, yes. I said, this is a one-man fight, but it's everybody building, but we reaching there. So that if you guys see something that's not right towards your building, you guys should go out and say something. Call somebody in. Some head of state, call somebody in. Call your congressman. Call your councilwoman. Call anybody who you can call. Ask them for help. And that's what we did. Thank God we reach it before it. I reach it before it. So therefore, you guys, and we think we're on our way now to recovery. Am I right, lawyer? Yes, we're on our way to recovery because it was like a quick thinking of somebody who doing this. And I have something else to say. That's not even the first time we lose in that building. The first people them that was managing the building, they robbed the building. And they buy house in Florida's. They do this, they do that, and when I find it out, I run to Mr. Barry Million in Manhattan, take my money out of my pocket, and freeze the building assess. And we keep it. And this time, while we was going down, we did not do it. Management did it to us. World-class management did it to us. So you guys got to open your eyes wide and watch every little thing that's going on in your building. So you guys could catch it and save your guys' building.
And I hope they're listening to you.
Yes, that's what I do.
Take a step, ain't nobody.
Somebody on the street gave me that paper and said to me, do you know the building is going into foreclosure 2018? The bent, gonna be bent. I said, what are you talking about? And they give it to me. And I said, what am I must do? I said, Lord, send a savior to save the day. And I run to INS, and I was so lucky when I reached my INS office. INS was sitting on his desk, and I said, INS, here, we're losing the building. And INS helped catch it. See the lawyer, INS helped we get, and we catch it. So you guys got to fight with all your might. Believe in what you're fighting for. You see, today, the whole 38th unit, I'm the only one here. Because I'm not going to stop fighting until we achieve what we're supposed to reach the goal. Okay.
But that's the kind of talk that we need. We don't need to talk about how we can't do something. We need to focus on problem solving and what we can do and getting the information and getting to the right people. And I really appreciate that. She came all the way from East New York.
And I've lost up to my
That's right. She came all the way over here, okay? So some people have a problem walking around the corner to get to some place where they need to be. But she came there, and that's the kind of spirit that we all need. If you don't already have it, try to put it inside of you and try to instill other people with that. So we are going to deal with the clinic in the back. It would be good if you join also with the lawyer and with this sister. Nobody else here, I think, has that issue at this point, and we could just talk about that. So we're going to, it's like almost quarter of, I think, of 8.
Don't think we do not have big issue in our building. We have
No,
it.
she has them.
But we're going to put it aside. And we're going to correct this that we have.
That's right.
And then we're going to go forth with it. Yes.
Yes. And
Because I'm there, I tell them I'm going to bring the news and them if they know that with the right thing.
Right.
Because I'm the sparrow of their eyes. I'm watching.
And that's the other, I think the other thing that she's saying too, is that we have to think about, you have to be strategic. All of us as black people and poor people have 1,000 issues. You can't work on 1,000 issues simultaneously. You have to pick out what issue is going to be the foundation to get you higher and higher and higher and get rid of all the problems. So when you get overwhelmed, you have to sit down and say, okay, what do I need to do? They sat down and said, we need to have a board. People had differences about who should be on the board, but they fought and they got a board, because you need a board to make decisions in a HDFC or any co-op.
And the board that we get is not even the right board, but because we want to push this through, we agree with what's going on.
That's right. That's right. So again, when you want to build unity to really oppose the real enemy, which ain't y'all sitting here, but the enemy who really wants to take the land from everybody, then you need to not be petty and focus on the petty stuff and every little teeny detail, but focus on the big picture and how to get your foundation to keep on getting to where you need to go.
Because whether you're in the Bronx, or Brooklyn, or Manhattan, we're all facing the same stuff, right? We're all facing some internal stuff. By the way, talk to people in private co-ops, and they have the same internal stuff, which is people not wanting to participate, people acting like tenants instead of shareholders, and it held together by a couple of leaders. So that's really common, to just co-ops, period, right? We're not special. The other thing is that we're facing a time where the city's really moving, on HDFCs, for foreclosing 60 years, all of a sudden 84 this year, and how many next year? It's because developers are pushing. They see this property, what's happening, right? There's real estate everywhere. That's why all of a sudden, I sat back and I'm gonna retire. I can't retire. I mean, I'm back in the fight because the city's moving on us. So that's why it's so important that it's not just your building, it's the buildings in the neighborhood, it's the buildings in the borough, it's us working with Brooklyn, it's us organizing, trying to get something really organized in the Bronx, because there's not a coalition in the Bronx, and they have South Bronx, by the way, and they have the most, some of those districts, the most buildings under threat of foreclosure. So if we don't unite together, on this, we're in trouble. So, but we're strong. I mean, here's the other. On the other hand, they can't do this without the city council members, for example. They can't do it without the city council members. So we gotta work that. We gotta pressure our city. We gotta face to face show up, at city council offices and ask for support and help. And we have the backup of the Brooklyn Coalition, the Manhattan Coalition. I mean, together we can really be heard.